Now, on one part, Pana Shipping Corporation and Mecosta Securities, on one part, they were negotiating the reduction of that near $1 billion debt. And Russia waved away over 400 million and said, you know what? You're a struggling country, you're a small country. Just pay $500 million. Forget about the rest. While on the other hand, the Abacha administration told Nigeria that the Russians insisted on the money, on the nearly 1 billion, and apart from that, there were debts incurred upon the debt buyback. So that amounted to 2.5 billion. So that means 2.5 billions were taken from our reserve, while only 500 billion was being paid. So that is the debt buyback.
I have said this several times and I will keep saying it, that if Nigeria as a country have had that opportunity of having good leaders, leaders that cares for the country, leaders that cares for the future of the country and the future of the citizens, if Nigeria have had that opportunity of having such leaders, Nigeria will be one of the best countries in the world today. It will even be developed more than America. Believe me. Imagine since when that looting in the country, that is still the problem of the country to today, imagine since when it started. What this woman exposed in this video is something that happened during Abacha time. That amount of money you heard was looted during Abacha time. As you heard her say, that the people that went for that negotiation, at the end of the day, the Russian government told these people to pay $500 million. They waived the rest due to the fact that they said that Nigeria is still a developing country, that it is still a small country. So they waived the rest of the debt and told them to pay $500 million. Then the people that went for that negotiation came back to Nigeria and told the Nigerian people that everything they were going to pay, or they were supposed to pay, was like $2.5 billion. So they collected $2.5 billion from the reserve and paid only $500 million. So $2 billion went to where people do not know. You see, since when that looting started, and that's one of the reasons why I will keep saying, Nigeria is stickingly rich. The problem we have is leadership. Anyway, take a look at everything before I get into the main thing that I want to say with this. Watch.
Telling them that, look, we are nearly completing the plant, but we cannot complete the 2% because we need the infrastructure set up. Because once the 2%, which is largely the blast furnace, once it's ignited, the blast furnace is to run for 25 years non-stop. That means many people say, why, if the Russians really wanted Ajaokuta to work, why did they leave at 2%, at 98%? It's because if they had started, would have had a wholesome damage. And for these 3 years, which was more than enough to have the infrastructure running, the roads, dredging. At that time, they even proposed the dredging of River Niger. But not one letter was responded to, and they had to leave. It was a sad experience, they had to leave. It was more sad because, like I said, people like me, many Russians that came to Nigeria and got married to Nigerians, they were separated. My mother till today does not even have a Nigerian passport, even though my father wasn't working, but the rules were not so fair to many people. So when they left, I will read now. In October, when the Russians left, and we had such huge debt to pay, they did not take Nigeria to court. They kept on sending letters of reminder. How are you going to pay this? But most importantly, they reminded Nigeria, if you are interested in continuing the completion of your plant, let us know. We will come back. All we have to is renegotiate. But what happened was, in October 1995, I'm going to read from this part because there are some key words I don't want to miss. A series of debt buyback transactions took place, whereby the debt instruments were sold at inflated prices to Liberian companies, purportedly owned by the Abachas. The two companies are called Pana Shipping Corporation and Mecosta Securities. These are two companies that were registered in Liberia, and these are the two companies that bought the debts. Now, on one part, Pana Shipping Corporation and Mecosta Securities, on one part, they were negotiating the reduction of that near $1 billion debt. And Russia waved away over 400 million and said, you know what? We're a struggling country, a small country. Just pay $500 million. Forget about the rest. While on the other hand, the Abacha administration told Nigeria that the Russians insisted on the money, on the nearly $1 billion, and apart from that, there were debts incurred upon the debt buyback. So that amounted to $2.5 billion. So that means $2.5 billion were taken from our reserve, while only $500 billion was being paid. So that is the debt buyback. 2014. The Egyptian government embarked upon a huge project to dualize the Suez Canal. And that Suez Canal, the President Sisi sold the idea so patriotically to the people that $8 billion was raised in 10 days. Mr. Speaker, these are facts. $8 billion was raised in 10 days from a country that has a population of just 91 million. They don't have individuals as rich as Nigeria. But what matters is leadership and the ability to connect to the people so that an average person on the street, the person roasting corn, the organizer, everybody will believe in this national dream. And a crime against Ajaokuta is a crime against Nigeria. And there is no court, supposing this $525 million was actually an order of the greatest court on earth. Nigeria is a sovereign nation, and we decide to allow criminals or not to allow criminals into our land, whether they are nationals, Nigerians, or foreign. So, sir, it's actually Nigeria's duty to ensure that people who have committed crimes on this land are not holding our most precious assets. Also, we would say that Ajaokuta and Itape must not be privatized or concession, but be owned 100% by the federal government of Nigeria and operated alongside the original builders only in areas of technical expertise. And once there is an absolute transfer of technology, the Russians can go. We believe we have seen Nigerians around the world conducting amazing things in engineering, so there's no reason why they shouldn't. We would also like to appeal that this Honorable House asks to get the executive to assemble a team of economic experts to travel to Russia, which I'm speaking with regards to the bilateral agreement, which is still standing open. Because we believe that once a country or two countries come together and agree on a particular reasoning, then that is binding on the nations. It's upon meeting with President Putin that Nigeria can then begin to decide the way forward. And I also agree with the previous speakers that there has to be a redesign of the steel sector. Why a redesign? Is because when I visited Russia 2 years ago and I spoke with the original builders, they told me that the plan upon which the Nigeria steel industry is built, it was designed in 1971 by the geological survey conducted by these same original builders. And they said by now, the advancement of technologies and innovation in the sector has caused the realization and usage of new materials which were ordinarily not known to them then. They also told me that we might be oblivious of the fact that Rolls-Royce today, the great Rolls-Royce, uses important alloys sourced from Kogi State, probably supplied by illegal miners. But that is why I say it is very important that we call them back to conduct another survey, because probably in the modernization and upgrade of the plant, there could be new sectors that are injected, so that new minerals can be incorporated. Thank you. And I would say again that I know many would talk about why am I promoting Russia? Why am I not promoting China and India? With due respect to every country's steel capabilities, the greatest steel plant in China today, and 5 of the biggest steel plants in India, citing Belial, which for the 12th consecutive year has won the best steel plant in Asia, was built by this same company. So why? There's a very big question. What has Russia done, and why are we shying away from approaching the people who actually envisage this dream for completion? Nigeria must be ready for sanctions. That's one thing I'm going to say. It's not easy to go against the Western Bloc. We must be ready for sanctions because at the end of the day, we must dream of a big, great Nigeria. Because for all it's worth, trade is always better than aid. Trade is always better than aid. Nigeria should position itself to be a country that will give other African countries aid. We should be the country that Ghana, Kenya, Somalia, Uganda, they run to for loans. Not all of us scrambling for loans from the Chinese.
First of all, I will say this, that most Nigerian leaders don't used to like people like this. They don't used to like this type of people. Yes, people that will go deeper to open corruption like this, they don't used to like them. They mostly like the people that will play along. Yes, people that will tag along, play along, sing the same chorus. On your mandate we shall stand. No competition, nothing serious. These are the type of people they used to like. And that is one of the reasons why I have always said it. I've always thought of this idea that most of these agitators in different parts of the country should try to find a way of getting themselves in that National Assembly. They should try to find a way to get to that National Assembly. Let there be competition. You know, because we need many of these type of voices for things to be corrected. A few people cannot overpower the rest, honestly. But when we have mostly this type of agitators that have harsh voices, that are very, very ready to do whatever thing, when we have most of these people in that National Assembly, especially that Senate, there will be argument. People will argue. When you talk about something here, it will go through due process, then we'll relate it with the law to see how it is going to be handled legally. Not all this party type of a judgment we used to have from most of these houses. And I can tell you that that National Assembly is one of the places where whatever decision they make there affects everybody. If they make good decision, it will affect everybody. If they make the bad one, it will affect everybody. So we need people there, mostly as in like these agitators. We need most of these people there. Let there be competition so that things will be done the right way. You know? Now, let me bring your attention to one thing that this woman said in this video that will make you understand one thing that I've been saying, that Nigeria is supposed to be one of the best countries in the world. And that is the part where she said that Rolls-Royce, the great Rolls-Royce you hear today, uses material that is mostly supplied from Kogi State. This is the first time I'm hearing this. And I know it might be your first time as well. That the great Rolls-Royce you hear of today uses material that is mostly supplied from Kogi State, but mostly it may be supplied by illegal miners. So it is not being recorded. So people may not know about it. You know, there are so many illegal mining in different places in Nigeria. And that is one of the reasons why I have kept saying that if we have leadership that can pay attention, that can take full control to manage everything the way it is supposed to be managed, the way it is being done in other countries, Nigeria will stand out to be one of the best countries in the world, honestly. Now, most of these things this woman talked about here is in connection with Ajaokuta Steel Company. And just like what she said, a crime on that particular steel company is a crime against Nigerians, honestly. Because if that particular steel company is working, everybody would have seen what that particular thing would have contributed to Nigeria as a nation, honestly. Let me not say much, but one thing I will conclude with is one thing the woman said at the end of the video, that Nigeria is supposed to be a country where most other African countries like Ghana, like Kenya, like Rwanda, like South Africa, like many other places should be coming to borrow money from. Not all of us, not all the countries in Africa, rushing to borrow money from China, from different parts of Western countries. That is very, very interesting. Nigeria is supposed to be a country that should be loaning money to most of these other countries in Africa. Not everybody rushing out to loan from China, to loan from America, to loan from whichever country. You know, Nigeria can do this. With a lot of things we have in the country, Nigeria can do this. Only that we have bad leadership in the system. If we have leadership that can take full control, full responsibility, manage everything the way it is supposed to be managed, you know, hold people accountable, not making most of these selfish political decisions. You know, if we have leaders that can focus on managing things the way it is supposed to be done, Nigeria will become a country that will surprise a lot of people positively, honestly.